Hi guys, I'm back. And today we're going to do an acrylic pour for beginners video. So as you can see, I have a lot of things here. These are all the things you're going to need if you want to create a successful acrylic pour. Now this is what works for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for every single one of you. There are different methods out there that work great for different people in different circumstances. So my tip for you is make sure you try a lot of different people's recipes until you find the one that works for you. Now this one might work for you right off the bat. It works for me great. Does it work 100% of the time? No. But any artist will tell you that you are going to have failures, and there is nothing wrong with that. So let's go through the ingredients, everything you're going to need. Obviously you're going to need a canvas. This is an 8" by 8" canvas. I have stapled the back and put push pins in it to keep it up off the table. The push pins work fantastic. They also let air get to the underside of the canvas so that it can dry faster. We've got the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic. I always use, if I'm going to use white in my paintings, I use the Flow Acrylic 99% of the time. The titanium white is heavier. It will sink. You will see very little of it in your paintings. If you use the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic, or another brand, Flow Acrylic, it is not made with titanium white. I want to say it's most likely made with zinc white, which is a lighter, less heavy, dense pigment. So here we have a piece of cardboard. It's just, from it looks like oatmeal box. This is my corner catcher. Always have corner catchers. Then we've got our treadmill belt lubricant, 100% silicone from Lifespan. This is the silicone I use every single time without fail now. It's about $14 or $15 for the bottle, but this bottle has lasted me about 1.5 years, probably, maybe 2 years, and I haven't even begun to use not even a third of it. So it'll last me my entire paint pouring career. Really good investment. Then we have this little doohickey. It's a loose leaf tea strainer. It actually has a second one of these on the other side, So it's like a ball. You put your little tea leaves in there and close it up and put it in your water, and it works really great for straining sort of the gunky stuff out of the floetrol. You're going to get some sticky blobs in your floetrol after your bottle sits for a while, because some of it will tend to dry along the top and stuff. So this works really great for straining the floetrol. I have heard people tell me to use pantyhose to wrap it around the top of the floetrol bottle, and that works for them. But this works for me, so I don't need to change that. It's really easy to clean. You rinse it under hot water, or when it gets because the little holes can get kind of gunky sometimes, just take a toothbrush and some dish soap and just scrub it under some hot water. It comes right out. You can also put it in the dishwasher. That works great too. Then we've got popsicle sticks. Absolute necessity. You got to have something to stir that paint with. I use popsicle sticks left over a lot of times from popsicles from the summertime. So when the kids eat all the popsicles all summer long, I save all the popsicle sticks. Chilled distilled water. This was a game changer for me. When I started using chilled distilled water, my cells became better cells. I keep it chilled because in the summertime, my paints get really warm in the house. I don't have air conditioning in the house, so my paints got really warm. And the first summer I was trying this, I didn't have any success at all. And as soon as I put this in the refrigerator and started using it this way, it worked great. Do not try and put your paints in the refrigerator themselves, because that doesn't work. I tried it. I use distilled water because a lot of times the water from your sink can have a lot of minerals in it. So the minerals can sort of inhibit cell formation. So chilled distilled water. If you're using sink water and it's not working well for you, go to chilled distilled water and make your paint thicker. I tell you this all the time. So those of you who are new to my channel, you haven't heard it 100 times, but I say it all the time. Make your paint thicker than you think it needs to be. Okay, of course you're going to need paint. Today we've got the Arteza craft paints. Check out the link below if you'd like to purchase some of this. I like it. It's bright, it's colorful, it dries really nice. Very happy with it. Then obviously we have a torch here. Some of you out there are afraid of torches. You can also use a heat gun. I wouldn't suggest using a blow dryer just because it's going to blow your paint everywhere. But you can also just blow on your paintings to get rid of a lot of the air bubbles if you're afraid of a torch or afraid of a heat gun. You're not going to, with my formula, you're not going to get as many cells, but still, you'll get some cells. Gloves. Obviously, I have not worn gloves too much in too many of my videos, but I have discovered that I get far fewer headaches when I wear my gloves. Floetrol is toxic. It says on the front, warning, harmful if swallowed. So if you can't swallow it, it's probably not good for your skin to be soaking it up either. So please wear your gloves. And of course we have the floetrol. And my formula is not really a formula. You guys are always asking for my formula. Basically, I just pour some paint into a cup. I squeeze a bunch of paint in there, and then I pour some floetrol in there, probably about half as much floetrol as I put in paint. So if I'm putting 2 ounces of paint into a cup, I'm going to put about an ounce of floetrol into it. And then if it's a craft paint like this, typically it's only about 1/4 of an ounce of water after that. Again, make sure you're making your paints thicker than you think they need to be. So let's try to show you kind of what consistency I will go for. I like to say it's like honey. Let's see if we can get the light to sort of shine up on this a little better. Hold the light there. Okay. It streams off of the stick in one stream, but it's also making a little sort of a pile in our cup there. And usually if that little pile will stay there about 3 seconds, that's probably about the right thickness. Hopefully you guys can see that. I really, there's really no point in you guys watching me stir up a bunch of paint because it's different. I promise you, it's going to be different no matter who you are out there, depending on the temperature in your house at the time. Sometimes, if it's dead of winter, I'm probably going to use a hint more water because my paints are going to be thicker because they're cold. If it's the middle of summer, I might not need, for these craft paints, I might not need any water at all, and I might need less floetrol. So you really have to just find the mix that works for you, and I have to change mine from, winter to summer. It's gonna change. So let's get rid of all this stuff, and let's just do a real quick pour. Now I have some colors already mixed up, and we're just gonna pick half a dozen of them and put them on there, and kind of hope for the best there. Sometimes with leftover paints, you can get a gorgeous pour, and sometimes with leftover paints, it just doesn't work out well. So I did forget one thing we need. Have to have my gummy bears. Yeah, because sometimes paint pouring can get super, super stressful. So one tip for that is don't do it if you're in a rush. If you only have a small amount of time, and it normally takes you about 2 hours to do mixing up all your paint and pouring, and you've only got an hour and a half, just don't do it. Just go do a load of laundry or something. And always have something happy on hand. If you like your cup of coffee, or me, it's gummy bears. So yeah, let's put those aside, and we are going to put our gloves on, and hopefully you guys are still in focus. And we're just going to pick some colors and pour them in a cup. Let's make sure you guys are still in focus. Let's see if we can get you a little closer. There we go. Okay. We'll get our cup over here. And we'll just, who knows what color. We'll start with the magenta here.
It's a pretty color.
Thank you. Okay. And I think next we're going to go with the yellow. We don't have much yellow left, but we're going to go with it anyway. And when you're pouring in your cup, just pour gently. You don't want all that paint to mix up. If you think about it, if I mixed all these colors together, let's go with some phthalo blue. I mixed all those colors together. they probably turn kind of pukey. Then we got some limey green here. I'm not going to tell you which colors I use because they're all just a giant mixture. Thank you, Thor. Appreciate it. Drinking some more water. I keep checking to make sure you guys are in focus because several videos lately I have done, they have not been in focus. So I was getting a little distraught about that. And some more magenta. Another tip is use both transparent and opaque colors. If you use, like say 3 transparents and then 2 opaques, or vice versa, I tend to try to use more transparent, but this time that's not happening. None of these are. I think the magenta is the only one that's transparent. The phthalo is semi, so we're just, going to keep adding to the cup, layer gently. Lots of layers make a prettier painting. Gives you more rings around your cells. Let's do some more phthalo. More of that green. Okay, that should be good. This is a 5-ounce cup right here. This is an 8-inch by 8-inch canvas. I think I told you guys that already, but it's good to know. And start small. Another tip is use a small canvas when you're first starting out. If you dive in with an 18 by 24-inch canvas, you're probably going to be a little disappointed. I'm not saying you all will be, but generally speaking, the smaller canvases work really well when you're first starting out. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cover our corners. Because your corners don't like being poured over. When you tilt your canvas, the last thing that's going to get covered is your corners. And sometimes you lose a lot of really pretty cells off to the side. I did forget to tell you, use a palette knife. Always have a palette knife. These are awesome to have around. Great for covering the corners, obviously. Scrape the cup out. Okay. And you can already see some of these cells. They already have lots, and they already have a lot of rings around them. Set that off to the side. Make sure you don't set them in your gummy bears. And then I'm going to take some of this paint that I have left over, and I'm going to pour it around the edges so that my edges are wet. And I don't really care which color I'm using because it's going to get covered over anyway. There we go. It's all going to go off this direction, so it doesn't really matter what colors you're using on the sides. But if your canvas is wet all the way around, it will help pull your paint off the canvas without having, like, say, some of these cells right here rolling over themselves. And yes, you are going to be wasting paint. And yes, it is kind of a necessity for paint pouring, unfortunately. Now, there are a lot of other ways you can salvage your paint. You can, use the stuff that's on the table as skins. Let them dry. Okay, so let's take the torch to it. Even though, as you can see, there's a lot of cells up here, so if you guys don't want to use a torch, just blow on it. That pops a lot of the little air bubbles, which in turn create cells. And as you can see, I take the torch over and all those pink ones all of a sudden came up. I think I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to do it too much because we don't really need anything else to be happening here. I'll take my corner catcher, fold that in half, and decide where I want to pour off first. Actually, I kind of like these, so probably going to pour that corner off first. Now, when I put my corner catcher up there, I do not touch the corner of it. I just touch the sides. because I don't want to lose all those cells that are going to go right off the side, right off the bat before all that paint goes off the corner. You see how it's hitting that corner last. So, and then sort of pull your corner catcher down, and there we go. We've saved all of those pretty cells, and look how much bigger they're already getting. Okay, so now we're going to go off the other corner. Kind of want that to go away. There we go. It looks very spacey right now. Now, the middle is not real solid because of the paint that I'm using. I think now I've got like 3 different brands of paint in here. But I'm using different brands of paint to show you guys that you can use different brands of paint. There's a myth out there that you can only use one brand of paint at a time, because if you use more than one brand, your painting will crack. I'm telling you, 99% of the time, it's not the brand paint that you're using, unless it's like a super cheap one. Now some of those will crack anyway. It is, there we go. What causes your paintings to crack is you use too much floetrol, or especially if you use too much water. What happens when you use too much water is you break up the binding holding the paint pigments together, and that will cause your painting to crack. And it will also cause really ugly, wispy cells. Really chalky looking cells. Okay, drag that off. There we go. See, I on purpose will use different brands of paint sometimes, because I like that sort of galaxy look that I get when I use different brands of paint. Now, let's move that corner catcher out of the way. Now, are we done with this? I don't know. I kind of feel like I need to pour off a little bit more off of that far corner over there. But then again, I kind of like the fact that it's kind of dull over there. I don't know. I kind of like it. Let's pour off a little bit of it though. There we go. Kind of make those cells kind of neat looking. That one, there we go. I kind of like that corner now, where that cell went off the 2 edges, but not off the corner. And the more paint, if I were to pour more paint off of here, we're going to get more cells. You see all the cells coming up over here? That's because there's a lot more paint being poured off. But I think I'm going to leave it like this. I do need to fix that corner over there. I'll get my corner catcher out of the way. Always get your corner catcher out of the way quickly, because it will, if you set it on its side, it tends to warp because of the wetness of the paint, and it will tip back over. So I'm going to pick up some paint that might kind of go with this corner over here. I'm trying to decide really what I want over here in this corner. I don't know. Let's go and see what this will do. There we go. Added a little something something to that corner. A little bit more interest. If you want more, just drag your your palette knife through there some more. I think I'd like a little more brightness to that corner. So that's what I'm going to do. There we go. Now see how pretty that corner still is? It still works. Just want to make sure I got that last little bit. There we go. Okay, so you take a look at all your corners. Make sure your corners are covered. They are. And you can see how more cells are sort of coming up through here. I haven't done anything to it. But there we go. That's pretty cool. I like that one. So I'm going to take my gloves off. I'm not going to touch it. Just blow a little bit on it, get rid of some of the air bubbles. I'm going to take my torch really quick over it. Now, if there's an area you want more cells to come up in, say I wanted a few more cells up here, which I don't think I do. Just do it super fast, because just that little bit of heat is still going to bring out more cells. So, all right, let's get you down. All right, so here we are in the far right corner. And just look at all of the cells and all the lines around the cells. This is what you get when you layer and layer and layer your paint in your cup. And do it gently so the colors don't all mix together. And make sure you have, see that magenta right there is a line around the cells. The yellow is a line around the cells. But then you got the turquoise, which is more opaque. And the yellow and the magenta are more transparent. Oh, look at those yummy cells. Ooh, those look so pretty. I love those little cells right there. Look at that one right there. That is just awesome. But then you've got this interesting area. Kind of looks like meteors going through space. And there's that corner up there. See, now it even has a couple of cells going through. It doesn't even look like we accidentally, or that we added paint to it. I like that corner. And then you've got bigger open areas. Look, it's like almost like a teddy bear face, but it's missing its other ear. Okay. Let's see if we can get really close to some of these cells without touching the painting. Those are just pretty. Okay, so let's do a real quick recap. Guys, please, 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 if you don't do anything else, if you make just one change in your paint pouring, make the change where you make your paint thicker than you think it needs to be. I mean, look how big these cells are. They're like, that's like bigger than half dollar size. Okay, if you want some big, beautiful cells, make your paint thicker. What can it hurt, really? I mean, if you don't make it thicker, then you're going to continue getting cells breaking apart and maybe not even being created in the first place. It won't hurt anything to try, right? That's what all of this is about, is experimentation. So make your paint thicker. Do not use too much floetrol and water. If you're going to, like my basic formula, about 2 ounces of paint, about an ounce of floetrol, and about 1/4 ounce of chilled distilled water. And that's just for the craft paints. If you're going to use like a thick bodied paint in the tube, you're going to want to add a little more water to it. But don't add a bunch more floetrol or a bunch more water. Yes, it's a thick paint, but the more floetrol you add, the wispier your cells are going to get. Use small canvas. Small, you use those canvas boards. Although I don't love the canvas boards because they tend to warp. The moisture soaks into that cardboard underneath. So if you're going to use a canvas board, make sure it's actually made of like a pressed board underneath instead of the cardboard. Have a palette knife on hand. Have your corner catchers on hand. Work in small batches of paint. Do not overmix your paint. Definitely don't overmix your silicone into the paint, because then you get lots of teeny tiny cells. I really, I hope this helps some of you out there that have been having trouble lately. I really hope this helps. If you've got any more questions, please leave it in the comments below. And again, check out all the Arteza links below. Use some of those Arteza links. I know some of you have used them so far. I really appreciate that, because I got a couple quarters in the bank the other day from Arteza. So thank you from Arteza. Thank you to Arteza. And thank you even more so to my viewers that have been purchasing the Arteza products. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having good luck with the Arteza stuff. Let me know. Send me some pictures of your work. I love to get pictures of your artwork in my email. And of course, you're always welcome to purchase anything that I paint. It's all for sale. Yes, definitely. All for sale. And I hope wherever you are on the planet, you're having a lovely day. Thank you so much for viewing and watching my channel and supporting me. I love you all. See you later. Bye.